Hello, everyone. I'm Ann with Andale Homestead.
Good evening, everyone. This is Cayce over at Ormsby Farms.
This is Sandi, suburban homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona.
And I'm Monica at Bland's Promised Land Ranch. Can I just say how excited I am that it is still light outside at 7 o'clock here in Texas? I'm loving, like, so many people are like so grumpy on the Monday after daylight savings, but I'm just here to say I'm here for it. I like it. I like having the later, like longer, it feels like a longer day. Yeah. And, you know, maybe being a homeschool mom, I can sleep a little later than the average. But I will say I'm a night owl and I like my evenings, and I'm loving the fact that there's brightness outside of this window over here. It feels so good.
Good for you, honey. Good.
On that note, I'm energized and I'm ready to throw it to Miss Ann to maybe welcome in and say hi to all of our beautiful, wonderful guests that are in here tonight.
Oh, thank you. Of course I will. Hey, Jersey Dolphins. I got your Corvettes in the mail, baby. So I'm glad you're here. Thank you for coming in. Rebecca, touched by yarn. Our sweet hat lady, Penny Ortiz. Thank you, Penny, for coming in. You're friends with all of us. Thank you, Penny Ortiz. And what's up? U.S. Freedom 5. Glad to have you here. Glad to have you. Penny and I have been emailing each other most of the day today. Hey, Troy Sutton. Hey, there's some awesomely awesome, beautiful folks in here. You too, Troy. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Jersey Dolphins, you know it's a joke, right? U.S. Freedom 5. Thank you, everyone, for coming in. We appreciate you greatly. And so what we're doing today, what we're going to talk about, Monica is going to share with us.
That's right. I was chosen. It was like eeny, meeny, miny, Monica. So Miss Carly says, look, I like it, but I'm so tired. I mean, I might have to do with 3 kids and chasing them and homeschooling them, but I'm a blame like daylight savings time is easier. It's
there
true.
You go, Carly.
I know. It's easy to blame that. With little kids, though, it does get a little crazy, I will say. But you know, I think originally, you know, daylight savings was for the farmers. That's what they say, right? It's for the farmers to have all that extra time. And I was thinking about that with our prepping stuff. You know, we talked about on our episode yesterday why you don't want to be a prepper. Why you don't want to be a prepper. And it sounds controversial. And it's not really that we're trying to say it that way. We're just saying you don't want to be just a prepper. You don't want to be just a prepper. You want to be more than that. You want to be a prepared homesteader. You want to be a prepared person that's taking care of not only your family and yourself, maybe your friends, your community. And when you do that, you're doing more than just hoarding up those cans of green beans and those bags of pinto beans that y'all know you aren't eating. You are not eating them.
I'm sorry.
Seriously, like, I mean, people be buying spam. Hi, I am Monica, and I have bought way too much spam, but I do feed it to my people. We do eat spam, and but it's one of those things where you tend to buy a lot of items, or you get things, and you plan for this big apocalyptic moment, and guess what? Spoiler alert, it hasn't happened. So what are you doing with all those things? We don't want you to just be a prepper. And we're here to say, don't do it. We are encouraging you. We want to give you some real life ways to not just be a prepper. We want you to be a prepared person that's gaining skills and knowledge and community so that you can barter and do those things. I mean, we had such great conversations about this in both of our episodes last week and yesterday. And I think if you haven't checked out our podcast, make sure you do. So Sandi, you don't want to be just a prepper. You really, really, really need to do some things. What's one of the main things we talked about, you know, when you don't just want to be a prepper? What do you need to do?
Well, I remember having a conversation with a person and they considered themselves a prepper. And so I saw their seeds, I saw their canned goods, I saw not cans that they canned, but tin cans of food.
Right.
And I just said, what are you going to do after this? Because they had seeds, but they didn't garden. So I think sometimes we have this crazy idea that we've seen so many shows and talked to people and watched videos that, oh, gardening is just so easy. I just put it in the ground and it'll just grow. But that's not usually the case. Now, some of you are blessed with some soil that will just grow about anything. but
Yeah.
most people are not.
Right.
How deep do you plant those seeds? How much water does it need? You have to gain knowledge. Now, do I have a pantry? Yes. Do I have a lot of stuff in my pantry? Yes. Are there some things that are probably getting a little old in there?
Mm.
Maybe, if I'm
Maybe.
honest, but if you're going to have a pantry, are you using that stock? Are you rotating it? Are you doing all the things? Are you learning skills to plant a garden so when those canned goods are gone, you're doing the process of canning your own vegetables?
Right.
Casey, what do you think about the quote unquote word prepper?
Well, I think it's got a lot of bad kind of press behind it. Because when most people, and I'm not saying people that homestead or do it, but most people, if you hear it on the news or you see it online, you think of those crazy people that have the tinfoil hat and guns sitting behind like a barricade of toilet paper. So I do think the prepper got a bad name.
Yeah,
And I
not
think
that we don't have those.
yeah, I was gonna say not that we don't have those because we love our toilet paper.
Yeah.
But I do think how Sandi put it in the first episode is a prepared homesteader is more important to call it because, like Sandi just said, what happens when that stock runs out? Like, yes, you can have a beautiful stock of all of the Augustin Farm freeze-dried stuff, and you can have, I'm trying to think of the other companies, so I'm not just calling out one company, Mountain something.
And Thrive.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Thank you. Got my back. You could have all of those and spend tons and tons of hundreds and hundreds of dollars. But when that's gone, what is you going to do?
Right.
And having the knowledge as a prepared homesteader is what we're kind of pitching. And I'm one of the weirdos like Sandi that does a lot of notes and lists and paperwork and all that kind of stuff. I like to every single year sit down and say, okay, I know that my canned food lasts about 3 years. What did I use this year? I try to prep my canned items really just for a year. Hi, Nancy. I saw that pop up as we were chit-chatting. I saw waves. I really plan for a year because canned food, as much as we don't want to say it, and I said this on the podcast, it does have a shelf life. It may not be as short as if you get in the grocery store, the use by date, but it does have a shelf life. So you can 2-3 years. Yeah, great. What happens when you run out? You got to have the knowledge to grow those tomatoes so that you can then get the tomatoes, dice them, can them again for another 3 years.
That's right.
So, I mean, Monica, what about, I know that, now listen, we always joke on the podcast that Anne and Monica are the pretty princesses and me and Anne are me and Sandi are the really pretty list makers. So I know you're not a list maker.
I'm seat of my pants here just a little bit.
Would you go into your year of homesteading in your mind? Do you think, okay, we used a lot of this, I need to make sure I had it this year? Like, how do you become a prepping or a prepared homesteader for your year?
I think that for me, so here's the thing. I am a list maker. Okay. I make lists for a lot of things. I just lose the list. Okay. And if I don't lose the list, it's because I've taped the list to my forehead and then I check it off one at a time. No, I mean, like, I am a list maker and I like to be organized that way. But mainly for me, the way I organize things, and I loved what one of them said, the close dated goes right to meal planning. You're taking Sharpies and you're writing it. So one of the things I've done for the years that I've started, because I started buying a few years ago, back in 2020, that's the year, the year people started freaking out because they thought this is it, where everything's shutting down. And so I had bought a lot of freeze dried things. And so I started opening them and dating them. And I started really cycling in those things that I had prepped and only intended to prep. And the reason why I started doing that is because I realized that, like, my mother-in-law, she's a really smart lady and she's very frugal, but she's also very wise over the things she's done. And she started prepping back when we were in Maryland. We actually joked because she had a big room downstairs. It used to be in one of the boys' bedrooms, and we called her apocalypse pantry because that was the pantry where we knew that if something went down, we would immediately go to her house and we would have plenty of food. She was going to feed us. And that stems from a lack of as a child. She didn't have food as a child. They had meat one day a week. They ate beans every day, and they got milk on Saturday only. So from that lack, she had an above average amount. And so I realized that because she went at the full swing pendulum, I had to somewhere sit in that middle space. And now I had to start using what I had started to prep, because now it felt like I was hoarding. And so for me, over the past few years, I really started using the items that I had started prepping and just for prep. Those beans that were sitting in the back of my shelf, that big 20 pound of rice or whatever, I had to start using it more and incorporating it into my cycle. And so I started asking the kids for, ideas. What do you want? What do you like? Did you like when I made this meal with rice? And they were like, we loved it. So I make a list. I do have a list of all the meals that my kids approve of and they'll eat.
Here's your list, Monica. Where is it?
That list.
We want receipts. Show us.
Look right here in my bed. I have a list of my family meals. And y'all, I actually I started making a list right there. Look, recipes right there, guys. My list of my family meals. And I have an approved list, but I go through that list and I find things. Oh, it's already gone, Cayce. It's gone.
I know. I'm behind. I'm way behind.
I find things that my kids and my family like. And then I started pulling in from my preps, from things that I did when I was really just thinking, I need to prep because this is going to get bad. And so I really started incorporating that and learning how to use those things, because here's the thing. You can have all these amazing prepped items, but not know how to use them. And that's one of the things we talk about on our episodes too. And, Sandi has said it before, you've got to have these skills to use it. So like literally last week, I had a big container of this, like, I don't know, it was like some Mexican rice and chicken or whatever. And the kids were like, oh, Mom, you opened that like a month ago. We were going camping and you opened it. And I said, oh, we should eat some of that. So I had it for lunch with some of the kids. We ate some of our freeze-dried food because I don't want it to go bad now that it's been open. And so you have to learn how to make it and do it and use it, because even in a survival situation, people always say, oh, in a survival situation, I'll eat whatever. Okay, but you know how depressing that is when you're already in a survival situation and now you would eat liver? No.
Hungry.
I'm sorry. I'm not. I would starve. I'll be like, no, I'm going to go out and eat some junk out of the garden. I'm going to eat leftover weeds. But that's, it's important to have those skills,
Yeah. If you're short of food, what foods can you forage? This is something that, now I know somebody that would be quote unquote a prepper. He is a prepared prepper. He's very self-sustainable. In fact, all of us know him. Jake, he is.
So you're talking about Jake. I know it.
Yeah. He is of everybody I've ever known that they consider themselves a prepper. He is the only one.
Yeah.
That I could actually say he knows skills. He's living that life. He is doing, learning all the time. And you can't just decide, I can do that. I can learn the next day. You can't. It is a process of learning how to garden, how to do woodworking, how to make a fence, how to fix a building. Maybe you need to make your own clothes at some point. Do you have a sewing machine? Or can you hand stitch? These are just skills to learn so that you become self-sufficient and a prepared prepper.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of us, we learn to drive. And I know for myself, one of the first things my dad was like, okay, look, you don't have to do all these things, Monica, but if you're going to drive a vehicle, you should know how to do a few basic things. I need you to know how to check the oil. If you pull off the side of the road, open up the hood, check the oil.
Yikes, I'm behind.
If you get a flat tire, let me show you the basics. You don't have to know it all the time, but just let me give you the basics so you know what to do, or at least you can kind of encourage one of your kids to do it or your husband or someone, because if you need to know how to do it, you should have some of those abilities. That's just a basic fundamental skill that I remember learning as a young person, as a kid. And I'm thankful. Yeah. Tire pressure, how to check your tire pressure. These are basic.
Can you drive a clutch?
Not well,
now,
but I can.
But like my dad, he would not let us learn how to drive on the other vehicles. He says, you don't know when you might be in an emergency and the car that you have to drive is a clutch.
Exactly.
That's right.
And we actually know somebody tried to steal their car, but they didn't know how to drive a clutch.
Look, we have a couple of comments here in the chat, and I want to bring back that how important it was. My mother was very, very, very much a proponent of learning to drive a stick shift car, and there was a reason behind it. But US Freedom 5 says, I write prices on some things. Stock filters, oils, chems for auto and machines, belts, parts, repair manual, shop manual when possible, and digital downloads for a possible backup. That's fantastic. And Robin Hood Homestead, Bob says, me and my family started back in 1999. Y2K.
I remember that.
Yep, I remember that well. My dad was an Army and kept everything stocked up just in case. And I so understand, yard squirrel, Bob says. But, Sandi and our grandmothers did the same thing, as far as that was simply existence at the time, was to be able to have a garden and to know to can and know to be able to prepare. As far as the straight shift car, my mother was actually in a neighborhood in California. I was only a year or two old. It was a terrible accident in the neighborhood. And at the time, there was usually only one car per family. And there was a child that was injured badly. And the one car that was there was stick shift. She was the only one in the neighborhood that knew how to drive a straight shift car.
Wow.
So she was able to drive that mother to the hospital to take her child to get treated. It was horrendous and a horrible emergency. But she preached to us, all of us. She only had girls, and all her girls had to learn how to drive a straight shift. So that's what I learned on that. Was my first car, was being able to do that.
I made my kids learn it too.
Me too. That's what they learned on the straight shift.
Well, I think she brought up, US Freedom 5 brought up a good point. Books. I think a lot of us forget that we are so, I'm a book person because I'm a homeschooled mom. So I always have lots of books, and I love prepping books and having those books. I know Sandi, I know you've got a bunch too, but I got books on things that I already know how to do, because if the kids had to help me do it and I wasn't remembering or whatever, then I know that we could pull the book out and they could help jog my memory, or I could go back and look, because there's only going to be so long that you can watch that same video over and over. I've watched the Joel Salatin video on how to butcher a chicken over and over and over and over, and finally learned it. And now I know without watching a video again. But there's only so many times that one day that video may not be around.
Well, also, we've talked about too, Monica, on that aspect of the videos and that kind of stuff. Is I can't remember if it was season 5 or season 4, but we talked about if you have favorite recipes, instead of going to allrecipes.com every single time when you make that squash casserole, maybe print that recipe out one time and have a binder that you're putting all of your favorite recipes. Or if Sandi has this amazing video on vanilla making. And in her description, she may have the instructions, and you print that out. There are ways that you can copy and paste bio boxes, all of that kind of stuff. I remember, and I do it now because of our friend Alicia over at Country Mama Musing. One thing that she does on her 5-gallon buckets for bread making is she writes the recipe on top of the 5-gallon bucket. And at first when I heard it, I was like, that's a little extreme there, friend, but
that's great.
But honestly, having time to ponder it and think, I'm like, that's actually a really good idea, because yes, you personally, Cayce may know like the back of his hand what to throw in to make my bread.
Yeah,
but my mom doesn't. Brother Chris
I don't.
Sister doesn't. maybe Ann Dale is visiting, everything goes to crap, and she has to make bread. She can read my lid and
That's right.
and make the bread. So I
Yeah.
think having hard copies of everything is so important. Books,
Yeah.
printed recipes, printed directions
Mm-hmm.
is important. So I'm glad that we were
And
discussing.
we're not saying that don't be prepared. What we're saying, oh, and there, look at there, speaking she shall appear, country mama music.
is.
There she is.
What you talking about her? And she has taught us a tremendous amount of being able to have meals in a jar, and as far as being a prepared homesteader, being prepared for different things that came up. But what we're speaking of, we do want you to be prepared. I have to be prepared in my neighborhood for hurricanes and storms and things. I certainly have, I try really hard to be able to have enough supplies. As Sandi said, 3 days, 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years. There's some things I got for 3 years. That's kind of, anyway, let's see. You're not prepared, SoundQuest Rob? Well, it's time to get that way, honey. And what we can do is learn. We're not saying go and get a 50-gallon drum of wheat. What we're saying is learn how to grow your fruits and your vegetables and things like that, to be able to have the knowledge to can and preserve what you have. And
Right.
our pantry, as most all of us do, it's an alternating thing. You put the newest in the back and you're pulling from the front so that you can use the oldest first. And we're just sharing that it's important to keep your heart even when you're preparing to not. I mean, yeah, there might be some bad guys that want to come and get what you have, but there's not a whole lot we can do about that other than being ready in our armament. And I don't want to shoot anybody over a can of peas. I don't know about y'all, but
They can take the peas. I'm good.
Well, I think we also talked about when you're prepared also on the podcast about that God put certain people in your lives for a reason.
Yep.
And yes, you want to be like, I'm only prepping for this circle and everybody else will be pew-pewed and pit-bulled. But sometimes you are put into the prepared homestead lifestyle too prepared for those situations where you may have to help somebody out with a little bit of wheat or a little bit of sugar. I mean, they always talk about, going to your neighbor's house to borrow a cup of sugar.
U.S. Freedom 5 says not to be morbid, but have instructions, an instruction binder for loved ones that you leave behind. What to do, where's the money, personal property, whatever they might need to know. One of my dearest friends in the whole wide world passed away just a few weeks ago. And girl, she gave instructions. Her family didn't have, the woman said, I met them in 1978. They were really nice people, but this is their name and their wife's name and their family. And they've got a key to the safety deposit box that will tell you what to blah, blah, blah. It was, no pressure on them. And God put Ann Dale in my life for a reason, no doubt. That's right, SoundQuest. Yes, that's right. He puts people in our lives. And Country Mama Musing says, we've had harsh winter conditions as well as changes in life. I can't tell you how comforting it is to know that you're prepared. I've never in my life felt this comfortable, especially now.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah. Lots to learn. It is. It's lots to learn, honey. It is. But we're here to help each other. I was slack in medicine, and I knew that, back in 2020, when some of the medicine wasn't coming over from across the sea, I thought, gosh, I'm going to be in some serious trouble. It'd been nice knowing y'all. And so I had to learn about herbs and growing my own medicine cabinet. And I feel much more comfortable now. So that's something good. And my wild home, glad to have you in here. Christy Betts, we used to share between neighbors all the time, take food and mow grass when someone was sick or elderly. Half the time the neighbors don't even know each other now, but we're very blessed in our neighborhood to have been able to, and the going gets tough. we do come together, and that's a wonderful thing.
Yep.
So, yeah, Sandy.
Don't you think a lot of those things are choices? I realize that a lot of people don't know their neighbors.
Yeah.
I
Right.
know my neighbors because I've made the effort to know my neighbors.
Right.
And they're lovely. All my neighbors are lovely. But so many times people, they choose to be so busy and they have their friends or their family, and that they don't want to spare that time to get to know their neighbors. But it is such a blessing to know the people next door,
It
know the
is.
people behind you, so that you just never know when it's like, hey, did you see somebody in my backyard? Did you they maybe your neighbor has a skill that you don't have.
There's
Either
a
they
lot.
can teach you, or that is a point of where you could barter.
That's
Right.
right. That's
So
exactly right.
Yep.
I think sometimes we got to step out of our comfort zone, bake
Absolutely.
a cake, and take it over to the neighbors and just say, hey, I'm Sandy.
That's
I'm
right.
your neighbor.
That's right.
That's how it used to be, though, right? I mean, isn't that how it used to be? At least that's how it is on like
Absolutely.
Feed the
Yeah.
Beaver. Okay, I'm going for my old school chat on my old school, TV shows here, and that's how it was. People were just kind to one another, and I feel like we've gone so far away. And like you said, Sandy, that's a choice that you have to make to build that community. Part of being prepared as a person for your family, you have to build that community. You have to be able to open your mouth and go talk to people. And
That's a skill.
my kids get so mad at me. We'll be in the grocery store or wherever. I'll be in Costco, like checking out. People in front of me, people in behind me. I have a full cart. We've been shopping for an hour, and I'm with 3 or 4 of my kids, and the person in front of me has the same item, and I'd be like, that is such a good such and such. Oh, granola bars. Oh my goodness, my kids love them. And they're like, what? Are they so good? Yes, blah, blah, blah. And by the end of the conversation, we're sharing numbers. We're talking about recipes. And this is like, a 15-minute window where we're standing in line. And my kids are like, oh my gosh, Mom, how did you literally just tell them your entire life story? And I'm like, I don't know, because I'm friendly.
Yeah.
But so many times I've run into people and then we've swapped information. And then I was able to help them later get connected with another person, or they helped connect me to a person that maybe I needed. And like later on, you're like, wow, that little blessing, because I opened my mouth up and I just said something random like,
hello,
my kids love those granola bars that you're having in your cart. I'm being nosy. But yeah, that's the thing. You have to make those choices. And
now Troy Sutton says every month after bills are paid, I purchase one book for prepping and $200 towards food, preserving items, and building supplies. And that's wonderful, Troy.
Yeah,
that's great. SoundQuest says, I don't know my neighbors anymore. They're renters now. Sad times. The old ones are gone, but Party Steve 2 doors down likes to party. He knows all about that. So. My wild home. We've lived at our home base for over 20 years. We've never met our neighbors and have no idea even one of our neighbors. Our home was a haven from a busyness of life. And I understand that, because that's what happened. It used to be that there was one person working in the home. Most of the time it was the father, and the mother stayed home. And so you did get an opportunity to be able to be a little friendlier. We didn't have this box. We didn't have so much social media. We didn't have television, only 3 stations. And so you spend a lot more time outside and were able to meet your neighbors. Yeah. Now we have garage doors that open in the morning. You leave to go to work. You come back home, close your garage door, and go inside. Nope, you don't see or speak to each other. And sometimes you don't want to, but
even when we're in the grocery store, or let's just say we're in a doctor's office. When you're in the doctor's office, you can, most of the time when I was a kid, they had magazines everywhere because people were looking at something. They were looking at something. Now, from the moment you walk into a hospital, a doctor's office, any appointments you're at, people are this.
That's right. There's no magazines anymore.
Eric gets so mad because he'll say to the teenagers, I don't want to see the top of your head. I want to see your eyes. I want to see your face. This face, you look a lot like us. I want to see you. I want to see you, what we created, what God created for us. Let's see this. And I want to see this. Yeah. And so many times, even as adults, we're so busy doing this.
Absolutely.
That we don't get a chance to see this and make those connections with these adults around us or there's other people around us.
You still lean on the fence and talk to your neighbors. What was the guy's name? What was the guy's name? That
From
was
Tim the Two Man Taylor's neighbor.
His neighbor.
This is his neighbor. He was awesome.
Oh,
Was it neighbor Al? It wasn't neighbor Al or
what was his name?
Yeah, hold on.
Somebody knows it in the chat. I know.
Wilson.
Well,
it was Wilson Jr.
Oh, Wilson.
Yeah.
And well,
Wilson.
funny is, before we got on here, I took some eggs over to our neighbors, and I've only lived at this homestead for a month, maybe a month and a half.
Cayce.
But I'm nosy.
Yeah.
Y'all
That's
know
so
I'm
wonderful, though.
You don't have to admit that.
I hope you know you're next door to this. So I have to introduce myself kind of thing. But it's good to know. I mean, for safety, for knowledge, as Sandi was saying, you never know what skill they have that you don't.
That's right.
Also, if you have chickens and animals and they may be a little noisy, buttering up your neighbors so that they don't call county and people to come shut you down is a good thing too. So
Oh my God.
Yeah.
The budget prepper says we know most of our neighbors have the number of 2 of them, and the people behind us speak a different language, but they're friendly and polite. They let me know when my chicken got out. So we're coming close to the end of our 30-minute time, but I did want to challenge each of you that what we could do is try to make a new skill of finding someone in your neighborhood that you might be able to wave to or possibly learn their name.
Yeah.
Maybe just say hello, maybe go for a walk and strike up a conversation because that's where it starts. It's just talking in the grocery store, as Monica did, any of those types of things.
with granola bars.
Or with granola bars. That's right.
That was a made-up scenario. Okay, I may or may not have actually did that before.
Are you kidding? You talk to a tree, honey. You talk to everybody.
I probably would.
So, Sandi, will you close us out and let everybody know that we care about them, but the difference between a prepared homesteader and a prepper?
Yeah. So, our title might have made you think that we didn't want to prepare at all. We thought that was wrong. But that wasn't the case. We wanted you to be a prepared prepper. So it's not just stocking up, hoarding, having things in a room. It's learning skills, learning how to use the things that you have. And I hope it just made you think a little bit. And then I like the little challenge of meet one of your neighbors.
Yeah.
You might be surprised at the friendships that you gain from that. It could be just such a blessing to you. But we just thank you guys. Tuesday night is just so much fun. You guys get to say stuff in the chat. We get to talk to you. And every Monday morning, 9:00 Central Time, we have our regular Round the Hay Bale. And we have so many topics this year because it's all year round. It is crazy. And then the Tuesday night afterwards, we are going to talk about what we had on our Monday morning podcast. So we hope that every week you join us. Give us a thumbs up. Share with your friends. You can share this live stream on your Facebook because you never know how it could help somebody.
That's right.
So we just thank you, and we hope to see you next week.
There you go. Bye, y'all. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Hey, Monica, did you know it's now even easier to listen to Round the Hay Bale podcast?
What? Really? How easy?
That's right. All you have to do is say, Alexa, play Round the Hay Bale podcast.
Playing Round the Hay Bale podcast on Apple Music.
Ooh, we're really fancy now.
Tune in to Round the Hay Bale every Monday at 9 a.m. Central Time.